Hi everyone, I'm Lindsay McKenzie and I'm a technical agronomist with Channel in Southern Illinois. And today I just want to talk about early planted soybeans and just a few things that we need to consider before we go out to plant. So there has been a lot of buzz about early planted soybeans just due to the abnormally dry conditions that we're seeing this spring and the really nice weather that we have been having here in Southern Illinois. So first I want to talk about, let's think about last spring compared to this spring. So if we look at the drought monitor map from about a year ago, no drought in sight. It had plenty of moisture in the ground, but taking a look at this year in Southern Illinois, we are seeing quite a bit of drought type areas on the map. So leading into that, I would like to talk about soil temperature. Now here lately, it has been nice and sunny the last few days. We have been seeing soil temperatures in the low 50s, which 50 degrees soil temperature is what we really like to see when thinking about planting season. Now we will see some fluctuations just due to having some cooler nights here pretty soon, but again warming up during the day because we are seeing plenty of sunshine. The one thing we need to consider though is, as we go farther north, so I'm down here in Edwards County. Of course, the farther north we go, the cooler that our soil temperatures are going to be, but that's, very normal just based on geography. The next thing I want to touch on is growing degree units, or we can say GDUs. Now, the way that we calculate those are the maximum air temperature for the day plus the minimum air temperature divided by 2 and then subtract 50. And that's how we calculate our GDUs for the day. So now if we're thinking about how GDU accumulation affects soybean or corn emergence, it does take approximately 100 GDUs to get corn up and out of the ground and about 120 for soybeans. So I wanted to throw out a couple different scenarios when we're talking about planting date and how long we may be waiting to see those soybeans out of the ground. So I have put together a couple dates. The first planting date would be March 20th, and here this is a graph of what the predicted emergence date based on GDUs would be. And if we look at this graph, we see that we're probably going to be waiting about 20 days for those soybeans to get up and out of the ground if we're planting on March 20th. Now, if we look at a planting date of April 4th after Easter, we look at our predicted emergence date, we are talking about 13 days that we can expect our soybeans up and out of the ground. Now, of course, this is all based on weather predictions, so of course is very subject to change, as we know how fast the weather can change in Southern Illinois. And these are just predicted planting dates. And so thinking about how long our soybeans can potentially be staying in the ground, and of course, if we think about April, we could have, if we think about last year, we could have a late frost come in, or we could have rain. And so we're wanting to protect that seed as much as possible and get it up and out of the ground as fast as possible in order to get the best stand and the healthiest plants we can. So when we are thinking about protecting those plants, it all starts with the seed treatment. So if we look at the basic and the standard Acceleron packages, in both we're going to have 3 fungicides. Those are going to be the prothioconazole, the metalaxyl, and the penflufen. Those 3 fungicide actives are protecting us against our fusarium, our phytophthora, our rhizoctonia, and pythium species. Now, all of those diseases can cause some form of pre or post-emergence damping off, or root rots, and just having a lack of plants up and out of the ground, which in turn affects yield. So wanting to protect our plants against those pathogens are extremely important, and those are what those fungicides are focusing on. Then if we look at the fluopyram, which is in both the basic and the standard, we're protecting specifically against sudden death syndrome, and the causal agent of that disease is Fusarium vigiloforme. Now, also with fluopyram, we do get some nematicide activity, and for that we're looking to protect our plants against soybean cyst nematodes, which are all throughout the state of Illinois. The difference between the basic and the standard In the standard formulation, we are going to have the addition of the imidacloprid, which is the insecticide piece protecting us against seed maggots, soybean aphids, and bean leaf beetles. When we go to use a seed treatment, we're protecting against those seedling diseases, and like I mentioned earlier, we can see some of those after emergence, like that pre and post damping off, but like sudden death syndrome, we don't really see any of the symptoms until later in the season. Now, how these seedling diseases occur, typically the common denominator is wet soil conditions. Those pathogens will infect the plant soon after it has germinated in the ground, and that's when the infection process has started. Now, there's no turning back and there's nothing later on in the season that we can do, and so protecting that seed up front is especially important. Later in the year, like I mentioned with SDS, seeing those symptoms later, we don't know that we're going to have any yield loss until it's too late. So protecting that plant is the key part, especially when we think about early planted soybeans in possible wet soil conditions. If you have any questions, always feel free to reach out to your local seed pro, your field sales rep, or your channel technical agronomist. Stay safe, everyone, and have a great spring.